Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to all the nooks and crannies receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter, manifesting itself into those magical boxes known as the Howard Reynolds boxes, also known as radios. Folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Of course, good morning to the rest of the world, receiving us through the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by whom? You. We the people created it. Monopolized by whom? The billionaires that we are going to take it back from in its entirety. Anyway, before we get started, let's get back to El Estudio, the studio with the two genios, the geniuses around. Brothers, how are you doing this morning?
I'm all right today. Just one genii today.
Oh, okay. So you're holding down the fort all by your lonesome.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it.
And we can always count on Jacques Van Beba to do it and do it just right. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, sir.
Good.
Well, I got my little piece here I'm going to read. Warmongering, fear-mongering, transmongering, fear of the immigrant. They are here to take your jobs. No, they're here because the right chooses to demonize them to the public, exploit them for their labor and taxes while denying them status as citizens. Crime mongering. Crime is up where crime is down. How do you tell? You have to check it out. Warmongering, supporting a genocidal war in Gaza that is now expanding into Lebanon and Iran. A proxy war with Ukraine designed to cause Russia to fall so the war machine can control the border of America's next war with China. This is empire building, and America better take a second look at itself before the bombs start falling here.
Hey, I tell you, that last sentence, brother, before the bombs start falling here, one of the reasons I think we have been, most Americans don't know it because, again, if you don't see it, it doesn't exist, right? One of the reasons we continue to be so belligerent around the world, and very few people understand it or know it because, they don't, it's not reported. We're in hundreds of bases across the entire globe. Think about it. We spend, Jack, over 8 times more. Rather, if you go ahead and add up the next 8 countries in the world, and I think it's more now. When I wrote my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, at that point, there were, I think, 8 or 9 other countries. If we added up the military budget of those other 9 countries, our one country's military budget would exceed that. I want you guys to hear that because it's true. Think about this. If you add up China, Russia, France, Great Britain, all these other great powers, if you add up their military budget, ours still exceeds all of those combined, not individually, but combined. And that, Jack, tells you something. Imagine if we were using all that cash to build bridges. Imagine if we were using that cash to move water in the areas of America that are flooding into the desert areas. In other words, all these hurricanes that come to the south and the southeast, etc. If we could find a way to create canals ready to move water, imagine the amount of monies, imagine the infrastructure we could have in America if we decided to use money to build and construct instead of using money to destroy. People always say, where do you get the money from? Actually, the money is created by, it's fiat. We create the money. And as long as there is supply and demand, as long as for the work needed, there's a supply and vice versa, it's okay. But imagine if we could use the billions upon billions that we've spent decade after decade after decade to build, to educate, and all these other things. What a society we would have. But then again, we don't want a very intelligent society. We don't want a society that's actually doing things because it immediately creates a more democratic being. People wanting to say, or people saying, why should I do this for the few? And if you don't know any better, that's what you build. You create structures for the few. I was watching a storyline yesterday. I think MSNBC's Wagner. She went into Michigan. I don't remember the county in Michigan. And there were all these union workers, and older union workers. I was impressed with the older union workers. They understood that while Donald Trump spoke a lot about infrastructure week and building this and working class, etc., that his policies never did it. These older folks understood that Donald Trump's policies were tax cut for the wealthy that did nothing for the union worker, right? And one of the older guys, not older, but when I say older, I'm talking in their 40s or so, stood up and said, every union worker in here, because they were all union workers, your job and the stability of your job right now, you see that thing you're building in Washtenaw County? That came from the CHIPS Act. You see that thing that's giving you that stability? That came from the CHIPS Act. That came from the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. And all these union jobs were created by policies that Republicans objected to, voted against, that Democrats supported in order to give work to people. Things that, they would call, why spend there, spend. Of course, giving a tax cut is a reverse form of spend, is a form of spending as well, right? But they don't have a problem spending there. And he stated, and he pointed out. And then the shocking thing was when Wagner went and she asked a younger guy, maybe 30 years old. He said he didn't know enough, but he was leaning Trump. And Wagner didn't press on enough to say, okay, what are the differences in policies that would affect you? Why you would pick Trump over Wagner? Over Kamala? And she didn't go the next level to ask the question. She was just being objective, right? In other words, letting the person speak. But if you are a journalist and you are just going to let the person speak, and yes, it's important for you to know why, what they're going to do. But also, if you as a journalist understand that what they're going to do is based on them being ill-informed, misinformed, or disinformed, I think a journalist's job is to point that out. Interestingly, before I came on, and I always say that you always kind of change the show for me, Jack. Interestingly, before I came on, there's an article that Bill Hunt sent me, one of my supporters here at Politics Done Right sent, and the title of the article was "Journalism Professor's Suspension Shows the Hypocrisy of Objectivity." The old style journalism doesn't work anymore because that journalism doesn't necessarily lie, but it generally lies by omission. And it lies by omission because of who controls journalism. If you're watching, no matter what station, if you guys know, a lot of clips that I put on air generally comes from CNN or MSNBC. That's the closest that we can get to not journalism that we need today, but journalism that's the best we have in the mainstream. Notice what I didn't say they were like great. I said it was the best we have in the mainstream, that you can get a few chips of truth with not too much lying by omission. So what happens a lot of times is I would take a story, let's say by Ali Velshi or Rachel Maddow or one of these guys, and then expand on that story, the part that maybe they can't say, right? Because after all, they're being funded by Jordan, the kidney drug, or they're being funded by Farxiga, the kidney drug, or some other drug. So they can't come out and say, well, our drug market is a rigged market. We, the people of the United States, create the research for the drugs, create the intellect for the drug, create the environment where a person educated by the public system can go work for a private company, create a drug, and then they sock it to us again after we've given them the raw material to create that drug. You see, you won't hear it that way on MSNBC, CNN, and definitely not Fox News or all the others. But that's the case. When I start the program every morning, I talk about we are getting our message through the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET. One of the modals that I'm trying to keep in the thinking process is that how much all of us are responsible for our own economy, for the economy of the United States, for the economy of the world. Because too often we give kudos, we acquiesce to those who would have you believe that they have something special that makes this whole institution of America and its economy work, which isn't true. We have always been a collective where some are recognized and others aren't, but where we all depend on each other for this collective to work. This collective called the United States, this collective called this hemisphere, this collective called the entire world. It's all interdependent on everyone. From that kid that is pretty much in slave labor in the areas collecting rare earths from the batteries that we love in our electric cars, to the miners of gold in the middle of Africa that's being enslaved, to the children enslaved to get that gold for us to live a comfortable life, to the pain of the people around the world, to support the type of economic systems in the West that exploits by abstraction. And what do I mean by exploit by abstraction? One of the things why we can keep our heads up high and we can feel like we are so morally correct in the way we've been is because we have an economic system that knows how to abstract our bad doings. In other words, we live a life that we call democracy, not real, but we call it democracy. We can go into that on the Senate later on with one of the articles. But the reality is it? We don't see what's happening overseas so that we can have this comfortable life. We can't see what our corporations do overseas to make sure that we have this beautiful, comfortable, air-conditioned life, many of us. But until we do that, we wouldn't be that free, moral country that we think we are. It's something we should take a look at. Anyway, Jack, you did it again, but let's go ahead and start with what the program is supposed to be today. That was my first soliloquy. Anyway, the title of the show today is VP Harris backs filibuster elimination for reproductive rights, and Pastor nails Trump MAGA. And the other topic is Haitian group files criminal charges against Trump, Vance over Springfield lies. Welcome to Politics Done Right in the chat. Eric Hayes, welcome my brother from Kingwood, Atascocita. Good morning to Paul Fleming Sr. from Powder Springs, Georgia. And let's see, before I get started, I tell you what, Jacob is on the line, first person on the line. And since I tell you guys to call early, I am going to go ahead and take Jacob first and give us a call, folks. 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738, extension number 2. You can still hit like extension number 1 and donate to the show. You don't have to wait for fund drive because we love not having long fund drives if we can collect some of your good support before the fund drive. Anyway, let's bring Jacob into the fold. Good morning, Jacob. How art thou doing, my dear brother?
I am blessed. Que paso, amigo?
Look at, wait, my brother. I'm going to start calling you my new Afro-Latino Caribbean man. Talk to me, brother.
That's cool. It's all right. Yeah, I got love for all, you know what I mean? All of them. So Dominicans, whatever, all of them. Puerto Rico, Boricuas,
you know about the Boricuas, huh? You go, boy.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were from Chicago. I thought you were here in Houston.
I'm here. I've been here 18 years. I've been here almost 19 years. I've been here a long time. So,
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Anyway, talk to me, Jacob. Talk to me.
All right. Yeah, and welcome to them. Y'all come. Y'all want to come to this country, man. Y'all want to come. Welcome to the Haitians, because this is this country. We talk about morals and standards. This country has never had it, bro. It never has. It's not peace and love and joy for everybody because we are citizens. Y'all chose to come over here. When y'all came over here, man, this is this country. Now, as this country, because Jack had brought it up, support what's going on in Gaza and in Lebanon and all that. And I'm going to tell you real quick, and I'm not getting into it because what I'm on is not religion. This is all just history. That particular area is called the Promised Land. It's nothing to do with religion. This is a piece of land that was promised to Abraham's seed. All right. Now, the people that practice Judaism came over there and got established in 1948. That's my mother was born. My dad was born in 1926. So this is recent. They haven't been there. They did not. They came from other parts of the country and came and said and claimed that this is our land because we are the direct descendants of Abraham. Now, the reason why they're saying that is because they practiced Judaism, but they didn't fulfill the prophecy. They didn't go into a land out there 400 years, but we don't get off of that. But America is in the verge. It's going to be a big war because they are bombing Lebanon and just they killed 500 some people yesterday. And Iran, they making the Muslims look like some punks. And they finna get it together. And it's going to be, and America already sending troops over there. And what they doing, they finna fight a war in the Holy Land. They finna fight a law. They finna go at it because there ain't no going back. They trying to talk. They in the United Nations. They meeting right now, and they trying to get them, but they doubling down. Israelis are doubling down, and they don't care. They trying to push them back 90 and level now. First, they was in the Gaza Strip, and man, bro, I don't know if this is a good day. America is finna go over there, and the land got to be cleared for the true people of the land to go back, and that's us. All right, shalom, shalom.
Thank you very much, Jacob, for that. Have a good one, my dear brother. Let me just say, let me add something to Jacob, what Jacob is saying. I think Israel, first of all, the part of Jacob that I can agree is Israel is not only making, let's say, the Muslim community look pretty darn, I won't use the word, but also the United States. I think Israel makes Biden look very, very weak, and he makes the Muslim community look very, very weak. We have what Hamas is a terrorist organization, and what Hamas did on October 7th was terrorism, folks. There's no doubt about it. It was evil. It was bad. And I don't think nobody is arguing with that. What Netanyahu and the IDF did in Gaza, decimating the entire infrastructure, almost of the entire community, blowing everything up to smithereens, murdering or genocidally murdering over 42,000 people under the pretext that you came over here and killed 1,200 innocent Israelis, doing that, using that as a pretext to commit genocide. And I will not hold my tongue. That is genocide by every definition of the word. I am not getting funding from these corporations that are scared, that make the media that I was talking about in my soliloquy scared to say what's occurring in Gaza, or what occurred in Gaza is genocide. What's occurring in Lebanon right now is an extension of that. What the settlers are doing in the West Bank right now is a part of it as well. America, you have to be on the right side. This has nothing to do not ever, I speak to my buddy, I make sure that as I'm talking these things through, to go get my advice from my Jewish brothers to say, am I missing something here? So no, Egberto. And guess what? First of all, Israel and being Jewish are two separate, different things altogether. And then he also pointed out to me, and he said, let me tell you, a lot of us are out here are saying what Netanyahu is doing nothing to keep us safe. Nothing whatsoever to keep us as Jews safe. Netanyahu is a war criminal, and America is currently supporting a war criminal. And for all on the Republican side now, those who have always talked about being pro-life, and as we watch what's going on in Gaza, in the West Bank, and Lebanon, should be ashamed of ourselves. And in this is one part where I also say Biden should be ashamed of himself, because humanity is the same, and that we have pretty much negated the humanity of those that Israel is bombing to smithereens. When you go ahead and destroy a 10-story building because there's one leader in that building supposedly of Hezbollah, and you destroy the entire building, killing all those innocent people to get that, hoping that you get that one guy. Or when you decimate the entire Palestinian group in Gaza under the pretext that, well, they're hiding behind terrorists. Ask yourself if you would allow that to happen in America. Ask yourself if you, Maybe in some parts of America you allow it because remember what occurred in, I think, Philadelphia a few years ago. But think about if the right people are in front, what does it really mean? Would we ever decimate the way Israel is doing? Patrick, come on in.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I got derailed a little bit because I was a little bit surprised, or I shouldn't say surprised. I should say I'm interested in your take on why October 7th was a terrorist act, because a lot of the people I agree with seem to think that the way the Palestinians were forced to live was pretty much an act of war, and that they have a right to defend themselves. If they're caged in and they're suffering and their amount of food is calculated to keep them undernourished, all of that are acts of violence. They're just not the type of violence that we're used to.
I agree. First, may I answer that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, let me answer that, Patrick. And it goes as follows. You're absolutely right. Gaza is an apartheid state, period. No ifs, buts, or anything of that. And anybody, again, like I said, one of the things we can do here is we can tell the truth. Gaza is an apartheid state. And that said, they are also criminally held down as a people. And yes, they have a right, just like Israel have a right to defend themselves. Palestinians should have a right to defend themselves as well. Now let's talk about why I call what occurred on October 7th a terrorist act against Jews. First of all, let's be clear. That part of Israel is a pretty progressive part of Israel, and those people that live in that section of Israel were people. A lot of those people are people who wanted some sort of peace with Palestinians. Unfortunately, as in the United States as well, if you have a population that isn't well educated and know where things are, who are the people, who are your allies and who are not, you may not really know those things. So you just go and haphazardly kill. If I call out Israel for bombing a building under the pretext that one of their enemies are in that building and they wipe out a lot of innocent people in the process, and I call that terrorism and genocide, I have to do the same when the people in Palestine do the same thing to innocent Israelis on the border with Palestine, with Gaza. And that is what occurred. A lot of innocent Israelis were murdered terroristically. If those people had gone in and fronted the IDF and the people who are oppressing them, that's a different story. But to just go and kill innocent Israelis, I am sorry, I can't be with that. Continue, my dear brother.
I can agree with that, and that gives me something to think about. The one thing I would say back to that is that they didn't have any international support, and nobody would offer them a more traditional way to fight back. So I kind of feel like it might have been that or nothing else. But I mean, I get that's speculation. I try and stay away from that, but I appreciate your answer. The reason why I called though was earlier you were talking about things being stolen from the commons, which is something I try and talk to people a lot about. Mm-hmm. And then I bring up socialism not because I'm a socialist, but I bring up socialism because it seems to be one of the only things that people recognize as as an alternative or a way to contrast capitalism, which is something I think should be healthy. Capitalism isn't a healthy system because it would be open to criticism and changes if it wasn't. But I want to point out from 1945 to 1970, we did kind of have a mixed system of socialism, capitalism, and a number of other things, and capitalism slowly stomped that out. Between 1945 and 1970, there were no economic crashes because there was high regulation, which is contrary to capitalism. When we allowed unfettered capitalism to creep in, we started having these cyclical crashes. Now, what's interesting is whenever it was time to fix these crashes, that was capitalism failing completely. Had it been left alone, the system wouldn't have come back. And what saved it?
No, go ahead, please finish.
Socialism. What I argue is what saved it was socialism. So the rich are fine with socialism as soon as it bails them out.
Let me ask you to stop you because you're exactly right, and I want to expand on what you just said. Right, the biggest fear in 2008, 2009 of the capitalists was that the fraud would have been that we would have done something about the fraud. That's what because they thought we would have done something about it, and they are super happy that we didn't. In fact, we bailed them out. We did all the things that they complain about. I mean, we created money to float them out of the crap they created. I mean, I don't. When they talk about the money, I want to digress a bit because I want people to understand something about what happened with the lockup in the credit markets, etc. Right? What these guys did, and this is just a part of it, but a part of this guy did is insurance is a big deal. They all wanted protection as they exploited. So insurance company, I would have an asset insured by insurance company B. Insurance company B is making money from from insuring assets A by going to insurance C. C would go to D, and D eventually would get himself insured by A. You got what we call in computer parlance the deadly embrace. So if A falls and A goes to B for correction, B goes to C so that it doesn't fall, C goes to D so that it doesn't fall, and D goes back to A, well, guess what? It's a deadly embrace. A had fallen, and A was looking for recompense. There's no money. We floated them out of the system. That is what a lot of people don't understand. We created money to float these guys. Our socialist part of our economic system saved, bailed out capitalism. Now, here is the thing, folks. If you have an economic system, what's the premise of capitalism? Let me see if you have that one word, Patrick. What's the one word that's the premise of capitalism?
Consumption.
No, greed. Greed.
Okay.
Greed. In other words, the tenet is greed is good. The fictional Wall Street gecko, greed is good. Supposedly, our individual greed, our individual selfishness will constantly push us to create and do things, right? That's what they would like you to believe. They want you to believe that one of the worst parts of humanity is what drives capitalism, right? Greed, greed, greed. Wanting to be better, this sort of competition, etc. Greed, greed, greed. That is what it strives on. If you have an economic system that strives on a moral failure, that system will be a moral failure. And that's why it has no heart. That's why you can have drugs that cost $1,300, irrespective of people dying, not being able to afford it. Greed. That's why yesterday when Novo Nordisk went to Capitol Hill, and Bernie says, "Are you going to drop the prices?" We can talk about it. 40,000 people are dying because they can't use the drug. CEO of Novo Nordisk, will you drop the price? We'll talk about it. A system that is based on selfishness and greed, of course, it's going to ultimately fail. It has to fail, and because again, it only benefits the few. Patrick, close up so I can go to Stephen.
Well, that shows you that the system is for the investor, not for the consumer. And then
right.
I like to tell people an analogy about football. Football was run like a capitalist system. Mm-hmm. Nobody would watch it because only one person would try to run the end zone, and if they fumbled, everybody would point at them. Nobody would try to help.
Exactly. Thank you, brother. Have a good one, Patrick.
Have a great day.
Stay safe. All right, let's bring Stephen into our conversation. Brother Stephen, come on in. And ladies, we want to hear your point of view as well. Stephen, come on in.
Good morning, Egberto, as well as the gentlemen in the studio. I just want to say, relative to Hamas being a terrorist on October 7th, I would like to say what I wonder what was thought of, and I know what was thought of it, Nat Turner, when he decided to rebel against his captors. Before, I've been watching Israel for quite some time. And for quite some time, when any one Israeli died, somewhere around 10 Palestinians died as a result of that death. And that's been going on for decades, for months, in time memorial. So when you look at 1,200 people, there have been more than 12. I remember Obama, one morning that 87 people had died in Chicago over the weekend. Sandy Hook had lost 26 people, if I'm not mistaken. And then Israel had bombed 87 people, primarily women and children, in Israel. And he left that all up with Israel had a right to defend herself. And I get that anybody put into a defensive state has a right to defend themselves. So I liken Hamas, quite frankly, to that of Nat Turner, a misunderstood revolution trying to do something for the populace. And one last thing, relative to the numbers, I know you're a numbers guy, 700, if I'm not mistaken, $77 billion was put back into the economy to save the economy, when I suggest that $1 billion paid to American populace, which I understand then Obama had said was like 330-something people, even to those criminals who had to pay back restitution, would have easily have stimulated all those markets that were failing at that time, the banking system, the housing market, because you would have had people doing all sorts of things, going to Vegas, buying houses, buying cars, the whole 9 yards. And I'll shut up and take it on the other.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And, you made several very, very smart comments. First of all, let me talk about Nat Turner and all these other, think about this. In today's parlance, the founders of America would have been called terrorists, right? In today's parlance, I don't have to create wordiology or anything. The way our country was created, that's what they would have called our founders. Are we glad our founders did what they did for what the ultimate results are? Of course. So one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. And we need to be careful with morality. I always use the example of what happens with when the United States invaded Panama to get Noriega. The one place says 1,000 Panamanians dead, another 4,000. I am saying I know Chorrillo, which 10 and Colon, 10,000 people likely died. That said, so we have to be careful with morality. Now, you also mentioned about the economy, and imagine if that stimulus went elsewhere than to prop up the bankers, right? Yeah, it would have made a much better difference. Bottom up is a lot better than top down. What we did is made the rich people stay rich, as opposed to saying, hey, you rich people have failed. Capitalism have failed. Not free enterprise. Capitalism have failed. Let's give the people the recompense, because free enterprise would have won. Dawn, come on in, my dear sister.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say the topic this morning, I'm just going to go back and talk about Palestine and what's happening right now in Israel. And I just think that, and I like many of the things that were said. I appreciate that you go and, check your story and check your information with your Jewish friends. I think it's really important to stay sensitive to others, especially we're going to be talking about them. I would be happy if you would also check in with maybe a Muslim friend just to, get both sides of that discussion, validated or, get the information. So I am a Muslim, and I listen to you every morning, and I really appreciate all that you do. And I think that you cover things in a very balanced way, and you try, of course, to remain, I guess, evenly distributed on both sides, and you listen to everyone's comments. And again, I appreciate that. I think that's what we need more of. I just wanted to say, speak up for, I guess, the other side. I'm always sad to hear that, when we discuss this issue, I feel that the Arabs and the Muslims are always demonized in some way. Not that you did that. I'm just saying in discussions on the news. And I think that we as Americans, because I am one of those, I'm an American. I've lived my life here. I've been born here. I was not always Muslim. So I guess I can say I have many perspectives. I've visited Israel twice, speak some Hebrew. And so I feel that, I've had a good dose of, everybody's perspective, per se. Used to live with Israeli people. I've lived with Muslim and Arab people. So I just want to say that I feel that, we as Americans don't really know the history. And I think that we don't know a lot of things that happen, and I think that we're not allowed or told. We don't see a lot on our news. My husband watches, other news sources, and it's a totally different story. And I think that just to be careful that, many things have happened, unfortunately, and we as Muslims hate the situation that's happened. We hate, that innocent people have been killed. We don't support, these groups. But unfortunately, when people are pushed and oppressed to the point where, these kinds of groups have to rise up or stand up or are created that, of course, in do horrible things. Like, again, I say that we don't support that. Of course, we never would support that. But in the flip side of it, we call them terrorists. But I have many friends from Palestine, many people whose families are suffering and struggling. And it's not just now. It's been years and years and years. They always say, we're going to mow the grass. We're going to keep them subdued. We're going to keep them maintained. It is true that they don't give them enough, just enough food to survive on. They block them. People can't go to their jobs. People can't go. It's a long story, and I can't cover everything. But I think the amount that these people have been going through for years and years and years, I think a lot of Americans, myself included, I never knew about this until I knew people from that region. I knew people that lived there, and they came and told me, firsthand. It's a firsthand account. So I just wanted to always be, that and Muslims, I guess, are not just demonized. Many people over there, they're innocent. They are trying to live their lives, and they're not a part or support, these groups. But unfortunately, when you're pushed to the point, that you can't tolerate anything anymore, unfortunately, these things happen. So I just wanted to have a say for the Muslim community.
Well, let me just say, Dawn, this is also your home. And let me first say that the reason I specify I go to my Jewish friend, right, is because I am very well versed in the Muslim perspective, if you will. When I specify that because when you're let me explain something, and I know you know this, but for the bigger audience. Whenever you say certain things about Israel or whatever, the anti-Semitic trope comes out quickly. And the idea that the reason that comes out is to shut you down, right? So the idea is I want to be listened to. So I always make it known that I am not just being I'm not being anti-Jew, anti-Semitic. Already, folks know that I am not. I am on the left, so it is assumed that I am going to have something that I'm going to be pro all of the times, Palestinian, pro-Muslim. I'm pro-truth. That's what I am, pro-truth. And when it comes, so again, I preface that I've cleared this with my Jewish friend so that it's known that I've done my homework. In other words, I've done my homework. That said, as far as what we know about Muslims in the country, etc., you are so absolutely correct. The idea, and the same thing that's done to Muslims It's what done to people of color. It's what's done to the other. If you can otherize somebody, you can harm them without penalty, which is what happens too often with Muslims. That's why the people, and I've done shows on this before, why I'm saying, if you can get upset over 13 or 1,200 Israelis being murdered by Hamas, how can you not be enraged that 42,000 or more Palestinians are genocidally murdered by the IDF and Netanyahu? How can you not be upset about the decimation of the living areas? That is a war crime, and that is genocide. So I hope look, if you are calling me as one Muslim woman, there are thousands of other people who've listened to this and have simply not called. Those are dynamics and numbers that I understand. So I want you to know that your message is heard, and also it's taken to heart. Anything else, Dawn?
No, I really appreciate that, and I assume that about you. I mean, of course, it's not easy to assume, but I always assume that you are, like I said, a balanced voice. And
you were accidentally dropped, Dawn. I'm sorry. You can call back. It was an accidental drop. Anyhow, so call me back, Dawn. Call me back. Anyway, to finish your comment. Anyway, folks, let's see. Let's bring Brian in and see if Dawn will call back. No, Jack's kind of doing a whole lot of stuff in there. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Brian. How are you doing?
Always good.
Talk to me.
What exactly is Kamala Harris' point when she's been asked, what is she going to do to fix the economy, when she has no answer because she's been involved in it for the last 3 years, but it's bad. Her answer is, I grew up middle class. Go ahead.
You don't think that? Okay, first of all, Biden is president, but the Biden-Harris ticket, I think, have done a great job with the economy. Would you like to talk about that?
Great job with the economy, huh?
Yes, not a great job, an outstanding job with the economy. Let's get started with this, my dear brother. All right. When our brother Trump left the economy, the first thing that he left the economy in decimated by a pandemic that was mishandled. Remember, he lied so much about the pandemic, we allowed it to expand. But you can accept that or not accept that. The fact of the matter, the economy that was passed to Biden-Harris was an economy in decline. It was an economy where we were at 9-10% unemployment. It was an economy where the markets had frozen up. It was an economy where people were taken home. So he had to bring us back from that. But he did more than bring us back from that economy. What he did is he said, okay, I understand that we can actually pass laws to make things better for people. What did we do? We created the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't know why it's called Inflation Reduction Act, because that's not what reduced inflation, but that's what it was called. And in that Inflation Reduction Act,
can I get in here? Can I get in here?
No, you can't until I finish my point. You'll have time to finish your point, but you asked and I'm answering. So we got the Inflation Reduction Act that created a hell of a lot of new jobs. Okay, a hell of a lot of new jobs, including things like created more green energy that really came online during this administration. And I could name job after job after job that got created over that, brought down unemployment, not just from the hold on. It brought down unemployment, not just from the re-employment of the people who were laid off because of the pandemic, but above and beyond. If you take that out of the equation, Biden's economy has still outperformed Trump's economy. But it goes further. We got the CHIPS Act. While Donald Trump had allowed and continued to allow jobs to be exported, the CHIPS Act started to bring back manufacturing. Manufacturing went down under Trump. Manufacturing went way up under Biden with the CHIPS Act also, that's bringing back the manufacture of chips to the United States, employment to the United States, a lot of jobs to the deserts, to the Northeast. And guess what? Most of that money, ironically, is being spent in red states, bigger states, if you will. So what I'm trying to tell you, brother, is your narrative is completely wrong. And if you decided to go get your education from truth tellers instead of from a guy like Trump who comes out yesterday and says, oh, 36,000 people went into Springfield, Ohio. Oh, there are crime has gone up 43%. When are you going to start listening to truth? You have the time to answer now.
Okay, now, first off, let's go back to the pandemic. Okay, within 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, when he found out that the pandemic originated from China, he shut international trade down. While Nancy Pelosi has a hot pot meal with 4,000 people. Okay? She called him a racist, a xenophobe. She was the one that started the pandemic, that increased it. Okay? Now, this total lie about the economy was being down. Biden administration increased it to 9%. It's only down 2% from 9%. That makes the inflation rate 7%. The Inflation Reduction Act, tell me where the jobs are right now. Tell me one job that has been created. Tell me.
Oh, you can look. You just have to go. I tell you what. Just go into Houston.
Tell me.
I'm telling you, just go into Houston. You asked me to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you where the jobs are. Every single project that wait, no. Again, be quiet and listen for a change. Now, if you want to see the jobs, you just have to.
No, I'm not. You keep speaking over me. I let you talk, and you say no.
Sir. Hey, Brian. I never told you to go to a website, number one. Number two, I just say go out there and look at all the construction that's happening on the roads. Look at the signs, and you'll see where these jobs are emanating from. Moreover, if you take a look at all the monies if you take a look at the schools let me just give you right here in Kingwood. In Kingwood, we have a whole lot of new technology centers and schools. All of it, jobs created by the Inflation Reduction Act and monies that were received by Humble Independent School District, Houston Independent School District. It's all over the place. You know what? The problem is you just don't know. You choose not to know, brother. All these great things that are happening around. No, sir. Again, I just gave you a fact. You can choose to accept it or not. You can choose to listen to those who misinform you and keep you ill-informed, or you can listen to somebody who's making sense to you, sir. All right? Everything that I'm saying is verifiable. Go look it up. It's verifiable. Not look it up at Fox News or look it up at any of the right-wing rags that purport to be news site.
I don't watch Fox News.
Well, you're getting bad information from somewhere, sir. You're getting lies from somewhere. If you are not listening to Fox News, brother, I don't know what the hell you're listening to, sir.
I'm reading the facts. In the Inflation Reduction Act, $25 million went to students in Egypt. In the Inflation Reduction Act, that's where the money went.
Listen again, sir. Sir, you're speaking nonsense. What you're talking about is nonsense.
Look it up. Now you want to look something up?
Brother,
written in the Inflation Reduction Act.
Brother, you're speaking nonsense. If you think any politician would go ahead, I mean, there are technicalities that may make that partially true. I don't know. But if you think the mass quantity, the billions of dollars, over $300 billion isn't going into here in America, you're dreaming. Anyway, I got to go, Brian. Thank you very much for your call. But again, please. You
need to read the 900 pages of it.
Yeah, my God. Let me tell you something to the audience that are listening right here. This show also belongs to Brian. Brian is a participant like anybody else. He's a part of our society. He's a part of our family. But again, at some point, you have to realize that some things are so farcical that you have to see it as farcical. And if you don't, you have to examine why is it that you've allowed yourself to believe it. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Billy Allison Irwin, for being here. Thank you, Eric Hayes. Thank you, Paul Fleming. Let's see who else I'm missing for being here. Let me pass it on to Jack before I close this baby down. Jack?
Yeah. I was thinking, while we were talking about war, the old thing, shoot yourself in the foot to get into war. I think it's happened. I've witnessed it happen several times in America.
Yeah.
So, 9/11 was one. The SS Maine was one, and the assassination of JFK was one. So
look, we got to be a lot smarter, Jack. We got to be a lot smarter. But let me close down here by saying the following. First of all, Dawn, I'm sorry that we accidentally dropped you while we're switching between taking a call. But I understand all that you had to say. Give us a call tomorrow. Let's go ahead and say, folks, a lot on the program that we were supposed to talk about. You can find that at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Look, I guarantee you that everything that I say here is the truth. If at times I slip up, I will never have a problem telling you, hey, guys, I slipped up here. And not only if I find out, I make sure to correct myself. It's important for credibility. It is important for the truth. Love all of you guys. Love my listeners. Love my callers. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.